TruthSeekah and/or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and/or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles! Psychics! Everything's ungodly! Dark Savage!
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian!
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark-sided stuff!
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah podcast. Thank you guys for hanging out with me today. It's going to be a good episode. Pretty much a continuation of the last one that I did. This is 100 episodes in review. I did the first 50 episodes and kind of gave a little commentary on that, some background information about where I stand with some of the guests, and the first thing that really comes to my mind with those episodes. So I was able to get to the first 50, and it took me 2.5 hours to do so. So hopefully I can get through the second 50 and a lot quicker, you know. So yeah, if you haven't heard that episode, go back and listen to that one, and then maybe come listen to the second 50. But yeah, this is what we're doing, just giving a little commentary on that. Gotta say a huge thank you to all the patron supporters who allow me to do what I'm doing. I do this now for a living, do my music and podcasting full time now, and I couldn't do it without your help and support. So thank you to everybody who is supporting, everybody who's been supporting. And I want to give a special shout out to the newest patrons over here in the community right now. We have Janessa Whitting, Uramari Abriru. I know I slaughter these names, guys. Joanna Joy, Jesse Ewing, Matthew Abel. Guys, welcome to the family. Welcome to the community. Thank you for believing in my work and what I'm bringing to the table. Thursday nights, School of the Mystics is what we're doing too. You get access to that by becoming a patron. That's something that's really cool, really fun. Essentially getting together with the community. We're doing a couple different courses right now. We're in the midst of doing the basic training for prophetic ministry by Chris Valatin, and it's been really good. We're about 4 weeks into that. Really getting to know one another has been beautiful. Doing these courses, studying the prophetic, and then creating a safe place for us to move in activation, practice prophesying over one another. Some people, this is brand new to them, but I tell you what, maybe it's because it's from the privacy of their own home. I don't know what it is, but we're jumping right into it. And even I was a little nervous just getting into it as well, because the separation of time and space or whatever, and not feeling like you're there with the person. But it's been beautiful. We've been jumping right into it, and people are prophesying for the first time, learning to be led by intuition, by the voice of the Holy Spirit, what God would say to you, and everything we've been talking about following your intuition and being able to hear the voice of the Holy Spirit or discern spirits on people. You hear this stuff in your inner ear. And so we're practicing on speaking that stuff out in a safe environment. Thursday nights at 7 p.m. By becoming a patron, you get access to that. So make sure you check that out, because that's been phenomenal as well. I'm enjoying that. I look forward to it. Also, by becoming a patron, you get access to my entire discography, which is 10 plus albums. All the new music that I'm doing right now, it's already uploaded to Patreon. You get access to all that. Even when this album is released, I'll be putting more new exclusive music up there for you guys, because I couldn't do it without you. So I think you guys should be privileged to it and hear early mixes. And there's stuff I'll put up there where I just need feedback and I need somebody to talk to. So I'll put it on Patreon and get your feedback. If I should change something, if something's too loud, those type of things. And it's really cool building with you guys and having another ear to hear your own music, because I don't really have a big crew of people or a big studio full of people who help me with this stuff. So you guys have come into play when it comes to that. So that's been really cool. Bunch of cool stuff. I have an album release party. The album pre-order is available right now for my new project, Seer. The album release party is coming up on April the 20th. And it's a free event. If you can make it out, just pay for gas and board, and then you don't have to worry about getting a ticket or nothing like that. And come hang out with your homie TruthSeekah. Come kick it with a mystic. I'd love to meet each and every one of you guys. And so all that information is on my website, TruthSeekah.com. And so, yeah, thank you for everybody supporting my work, believing in what I'm doing. With that being said, there's no end in sight. We're going to keep going. We're going to keep doing what we're doing, interviewing people, bringing some knowledge and information to the table, and, yeah, all that good stuff. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into this episode and get into some more commentary on these past podcast interviews and see what's up. So, starting with episode number 50, Diesel Automatic, Spirituality, Life, and Success. Diesel Automatic's a really cool guy. I've got a couple songs with him, a couple features. He's been featured on my project. I think we've done some stuff for the Voices album, and then I'm on some of his stuff as well. So Diesel Automatic, really cool guy. That podcast, even though I know it was over 3 hours, but I'm looking at it right now, 3.5 hours. It's like probably the longest one I've ever done, the Diesel Automatic interview. So it's a really cool one. We got in there's some good stuff in there, and I think somebody tagged me in an Instagram post of them listening to the podcast, and I think they were actually listening to that episode. So yeah, that's a really good one. Diesel Automatic's a hip hop artist, and he raps about I guess he's got some spirituality in there now. He's more of the political stuff, Illuminati, the government, gun control, like that kind of stuff. He's a vegan now, so there's he's doing a lot of vegan rap stuff, which is cool too. But there's this transition that I took, and I find a lot of people taking as well. We talked about it in that episode, because Diesel started out just being strictly political rapper and doing rallies and marches and stuff like that. But I think that only gets you so far. Eventually, you find out, look, you can rally, you can protest all you want. There's not really changing much these days. So I feel like the natural progression in that is to take care of oneself, like do your own spiritual work, and then change yourself, and then eventually change the people around you by working on yourself first. So I think I see Diesel doing that stuff in his own life, and he's doing more spiritual hip hop now. That happened with me. I went from Christian rap and kind of got into some political stuff as I was studying it. Like, it just naturally came out in the music, and so I do more spiritual hip hop, and then so he's doing it. And there's other people. I know Vinny, VTP, he's one of them as well. Kind of the same path that it takes. So going from political for years, and then it gets more spiritual. So that's just a path there. So episode 50, Diesel Automatic. 49, True Hallucinogens. The Magic of an Alchemist, Drew Gower. Drew Gower is one of my best friends, really good friend of mine. That episode's beautiful. He's the one who's got me into psychedelic mushrooms that for the first time. It was because of him. We used to be in a band together. We played in a band called Prayers Fly Like Bullets. I used to do screamo and rap vocals, so it was like like a Corn and Limp Bizkit type feel. I was the front man. We were in that band together. Drew was pushing 400 pounds until he had his come to Jesus moment, and we talk about it in this interview where we went on a psilocybin journey together. We had a powerful connection, and then he read The Alchemist, and like I talk about, like that combination, magic mushrooms and reading The Alchemist, like it's a beacon for change. Like there's no way you can like remain the same, you know. And it's really interesting, and I want to do a whole presentation on this, man. We talk about like magic mushrooms changing you and helping you find your dreams and your calling and giftings and things like that by going within on that journey. But there's another part of it too that I've been coming up with, that they say, you know, magic mushrooms cures depression. It does. There's so much study behind it, clinical studies even, right? But I think that it can either cure depression or it can cause depression. And I think that it kind of does both at the same time. Like you can't really go deep in on the psilocybin journey and see this dream for yourself and the person that you want to be, and actually coming out with all this beautiful stuff that you want to do on your life's journey, and then you go back to bagging groceries at the job you've been at for 5-6 years, you know, and that you really can't see it. So from that place of getting the dream, getting the vision, and then walking into manifestation of that vision can take years, can take months or whatever. So if you don't follow that, it can lead to depression, because you're like, man, I want to be a musician. I want to be, and it happened to me, I want to be a podcaster. I want to heal people. This is why I want to do this for a living. I don't want to be stuck at these jobs and like feel like I'm wasting my life. And if you don't move, if you don't do something, it can lead to depression. So I want to go into a little bit more detail and talk about that on another episode. But that's a real good one. I love Drew. Great story. He was 400 pounds. He got his vision. He weighs less than me. I think he's like around 180 or something right now. From 400 pounds to 180. Changed his diet, and then started a campaign called No Days Off. He's in the gym every day. So it can be done. 400 pounds to 180. And so much stuff opened up for him. We talked about it in that episode. Make sure you guys go check that one out. Episode 48. I'm going to give a quick shout out to everybody in the chat room holding us down live first. It's like Crow, I think. The chat's kind of small. Christy, what's up? Hunter Fuse. I got mixed feelings on Diesel, but he's a good artist overall. What's your feelings on Diesel, bro? It's Andrew, Danny, what's up, Danny? How you doing, brother? And then Hunter says, Hunter Fuse, he says, if those mushrooms do that, where can I get them? Where can I find them? Where can I get them? Danny says, mushrooms help me start exercising. Yep, use the power of the mind. What's up, Brandon? Brandon says, do some research, Hunter. You can find them. They're not that far. Follow a cow for a couple days. You'll find some, right? What's up, Christy? Episode 48. Really, Hope Medford from the group Medicine for the People. Spiritual energy and music and the divine feminine. This was a really good episode. Medicine for the People, the group that she's with, Nako Bear, transformative for me in my life, on my spiritual journey. The big groups that did it for me, there was a couple of them: the Lost Children of Babylon, Conspirituality, and I definitely can say Medicine for the People took me to a whole nother level in my journey and became the soundtrack to my spiritual awakening. Just like my music is a soundtrack for many of you listening, so it's really cool. I got to connect with Hope Medford. We did this interview. I met her live some years ago at when I went and seen them in New Orleans for their concert. We had been talking on Messenger. Finally got a chance to meet her at a concert. We hung out with her, Nako, in the group. And then we did a song together. We did the song I Return. This is the lady who's rapping and singing in that song. So Hope Medford, what she brings to the table is amazing. She's an awesome percussionist, really understands the power of music, and she's connected, man. She zones out and goes to another place when she's performing, and that's the stuff I like. It's awesome. So we talked a lot about the divine feminine, the feminine energy. She served and serves still as a midwife of helping people bringing their children into this earth in a spiritual manner, in a manner that they're the transition is beautiful, and they keep it spiritual. And really what she does is it's amazing. You have to look into it. So that's a really good episode. I Love Hope, episode 48. We're talking about doing a second podcast because so many people like that one. 47 is an episode with Illuminati Congo, Manifestation, bringing the dream realm into reality. I love that dude. I try to give him a shout out as much as I can because when it comes to dealing with spiritual hip hop, I've been doing this for a while. A lot of shady people, even in this line of work or this art. But Illuminati Congo is the real deal, man. I really like that guy. We've done several songs together, and yeah, I really like him. That was a good episode. Still waiting on some footage back to shoot a video for our song Angels Among Us, which is one of my favorite songs to date, which is on Watchman's album. It's us three. So yeah, hopefully you'll see a video. Message him, tell him to send us the footage. Number 46, TruthSeekah breaks down Flight of the Navigator. It's one of my songs, Flight of the Navigator. Those breakdown songs, I just go into the meaning of the lyrics and what the songs mean to me. Flight of the Navigator is named after a movie from the I want to say 80s, early 80s. And I watched it when I was a kid. Really cool UFO movie. Check it out. 45, Judy Messeline, the lady who built a UFO watchtower. If you build it, they will come. She's out in the desert, and she built this huge platform to go out there and hopefully signal UFOs that they would come and land and summon them, or whatever you want to call it. This lady out in the middle of nowhere. She built this huge station, and it's a bed for a lot of tourists and stuff. People passing through. They go out there and they just sky watch, and they've had a lot of spiritual encounters and stuff, and they've seen a lot of craft since they built it. I think she tried. What she's doing is very similar to James Gilliland and what he's doing at ECETI Ranch, and there's some other people who have done it too. So really cool lady. I found her off of a Vice documentary. Vice did a documentary on her, and I found her. I was like, look, I got to talk to this lady. So shot her an email and had her on the show. That's how that works. Episode 44, Leaving the Church to Find God. Larry Reed and V. Terrell Buddha Hill. Really cool guys. They have a show called Larry Reed Live, and they just go live on Facebook talking about current events, music, the church realm, stuff like that. They came out of the gospel music industry, and Larry Reed was a pastor as well, and Buddha was with him the whole time, Buddha Hill, and they've just been growing together, and their spiritualities have kind of brought them out of the church. So they were kind of in a very similar path to where you were a Christian, but you come out of Christianity, but you still have a love for Christ and a love for God and things like that, but you just can't function with the foolishness that goes on in a lot of these churches. So really cool to connect with those guys. They're very funny, and I love to laugh. So yeah, really cool guys. 43, the Nephilim, fallen angels and demons of the Bible, Gary Wayne. That's exactly what we're talking about, the Nephilim. Gary Wayne is an expert in that field. I will say this, though, because I try to give you the first thing that comes to my mind with these interviews, that I was kind of nervous because guys know I don't like to debate on these shows. I like to kind of find common ground with my guests and build on top of that. And I didn't want Gary Wayne to know my stance on aliens, or what they call aliens, because obviously Gary Wayne is a Christian theologian, and the majority of people from the Christian perspective are going to say that aliens are demons. I mean, that's just a very narrow way of looking at it. I looked at it that way for a long time until I started doing research outside of Christendom. All the Christian experts say that they are demons and fallen angels and stuff like that. So I was kind of nervous that I didn't want to go into a lot of details about aliens. He may have brought it up, and I was like, oh, yeah. And I just tried to change the subject just because I didn't want to go down that route with him. But I can teach it and I can debunk it as well. So they say, okay, aliens are fallen angels. No, aliens are aliens. Fallen angels are fallen angels. There's completely different things, right? 42. Healing from sexual abuse and childhood trauma. Chris Duthridge. Chris hit me up, and he had been listening to a friend who had been listening to the podcast and showed him my music and stuff. And he first hit me up by putting a comment on my video. The video was Esoteric Agenda, my rap song, and he was asking, he was like, okay, I love the Jesus stuff, but where's all this Kundalini stuff, right? So they have a, asking questions about it. So I just hit him, hey, it's blah, 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 blah. This is what the Kundalini is. This is what it means. This is the Holy Spirit, that type of deal. So he wanted to come on and share his story. So I like to give people a shot, man, because I remember, like, me, and even now, like, I get messages from people who, I get bombarded with messages, and some of them are, hey, check out my song, brother, what you think? I really would like your feedback. And even though I am busy and I do have stuff going on, like, I try to give them the time, even if it only takes 2 minutes, you know what I'm saying? I'll listen to it, give them a quick critique, and give them some feedback, just because I know how it is to want to connect with people who have more reach than you have, or have a bigger platform, and they're too busy and they blow you off and read your messages and don't respond and stuff. So I deal with those. I still deal with those people. You know what I'm saying? So I like to kind of have that karma there. Essentially, like, there has been times where I reached out to bigger platforms who had no idea who was, and I had a story that I wanted to share, and they let me come on their show and tell my story. So, when people who I've never heard of, or just random people, hit me up and they do have a story, and I say, look, yeah, you can come on, we'll talk about it, definitely talk about it. So it was a good episode, man, an emotional episode, and it lets you know, man, that, God believes in second chances, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth chances, man. And that dude has had a rough life, and now he's living a good life and got his life on track. So that's episode 42. 41, The End Times, What You're Not Being Told, Chronicles of the Apocalypse. Brian Godawa. Brian hit me up some time ago to do an episode. I didn't know who he was. We never did do the episode, I think, because it was when I was just back and forth, like, not really taking it serious. Like, I love to do the podcast, but I love to do music, and all of this stuff going on. It had all of this stuff going on, and so I finally had a chance to do that interview with him, and really good. We talked about, I think it's called Pretism, where it talks about, like, the rapture and stuff in the Bible that's already happened. Like, all that stuff in the Bible, as far as from, like, a historical standpoint, in the New Testament, it's already happened. All of these prophecies about Jesus warning you that, hey, I'm going to die, they're going to kill me, but when I die, this is going to happen. You guys need to head to the mountains. You guys need to do this, do that, giving them these prophecies. And it happened. And you can kind of go through history. 70 A.D., the destruction of the temple, Christians being hunted and killed for game, killed for fun. And it always blows me because, like, a lot of Christians and Christian theologians, they're waiting for this coming tribulation that's going to come, this attack on Christians where you're going to have your head cut off if you don't deny Jesus. They're going to kill you, and they're waiting for this stuff to happen, like it's to come. But my stance on that is a huge disservice, because you're belittling what's already happened. Like, this stuff's already happened. They hunted Christians. They killed them for fun. Like, they were crucified, and they were beaten and fed to lions and made to fight lions and stuff like that in the Colosseum. And they went as a sport. Like, this was done for sport. Nero, which was the Antichrist. Like, all of this stuff, man. It's all you got to do is do your homework and just quit trying to interpret the Bible to Western Christianity. It's not the same thing. You got to do your homework. So, Danny agrees with me. Bro, I did a lot of study and realized all the prophecies already came true. I know, man, it's deep, especially when you can go back and pinpoint them. I like to look how the prophecies come true spiritually as well. You know what I'm saying? Like the return of Christ, which is sending forth the Holy Spirit, that he comes and dwells in the temple. And the scriptures tell you that the temple is not built with hands, that your throne is your heart is the throne of God, and God will come back and sit upon the throne. And it talks about the Holy Spirit filling all believers and all children, and this is Christ coming back. Like, I love to look at it that way, and I'm pretty sure that's the explanation for it. Like, everybody's waiting for Jesus to come back and part the clouds and come, but he's already come back. He lives inside each and every one of us. So that was a good episode. Number 40, ODD reality, or odd reality, conspiracy theories, spirituality, and religion, fact versus fiction. That episode, I had just a lot of people who really like this guy, ODD reality. Like, I didn't not like him, I'll put it that way, but I'm not really into conspiracy theories. It's a huge market for it right now. I probably, if I wanted to be successful, would cover more, but I don't like theories, man. I like truth. You know what I'm saying? And I went off on a rant in that episode where I talked about, like, people just making up theories. You can't prove it, and it doesn't help anybody. And I talked about the harm that it causes, especially causing to the family. Like, you know what I'm saying? It gets into some really weird territory. And I talk about that, you know, all these people talking about the Sandy Hook is false flag and it's all fake, and all these other schools, like every school shooting's fake. And, you know, if you're right, you're a hero. You're like, you know what? You stood for truth to the end of the day. You stood in the face of opposition and you didn't buy into their narrative. Like, you're that kind of hero, but you really ain't changing nothing. You know, you're trying to, I guess. But if you're wrong, you know, you're a very rude individual to say that, no, your family didn't die. It's all kind of stuff that goes on with these conspiracy theories. It gets insane. I try not, and this guy's made his living. He's made his market off of conspiracy theories, and I've been there. I've been the Alex Jones type when I did some political music and stuff, exposing the Illuminati and all that kind of stuff. But I will say this: if you want to get out of jury duty, which I just got summoned for jury duty yesterday, and I went. I didn't get selected, but I will say, if you want to get out of it, maybe this is what helped me. But I did it as a joke, really. But they send you a questionnaire and they ask you what type of bumper stickers you got on your vehicle, and they ask you, where do you get your news from? And I put on there, I get my main source of news from Infowars.com, and then I said I get it from, and then the bumper stickers said like Trump or something. I don't know. So, like, yeah, I didn't get selected, so I did have to go down there though. So episode 39, Charity Croft, the Universe, Consciousness, and God. Charity Croft made a big name for himself on Facebook, where he talks about is the universe God, or is there a God, or whatever. And so he does this little well pieced together rant about the Fibonacci spiral and all of these things in the universe that kind of prove an existence to God, and he condenses it with music in about 3 minutes or whatever. And there's like, it's got like 5-6 million views on it or something. He got really big off of that. I had the chance to interview him, which was a pretty cool conversation. The only bad thing about this episode is it's only 47 minutes, because this is the part 2 of a 2-part series, and we lost the first part, which was the best part. We lost it back when I split my episodes up, and I was doing the second hour was for members only. So was able to salvage the second hour, and I threw it up there because it was still a good conversation. But yeah, we lost the first hour, so it's really good. 38, Spirit Talk Roundtable, TruthSeekah, Michael Basham. This was like a second interview I did with Michael Basham, just hanging out talking with him. And I want to do more roundtable discussions versus just me with one other person. I want to do more of just having a couple people on. So Michael Basham is a really cool guy. Like I said, we're on the Fringe Radio Network together, and he's just a really cool guy. And it's really cool to kind of share my fan base with him and my audience, because like I see a lot of people, as I mention his name and share his work, I see a lot of people commenting on his stuff and paying attention to it. So he's a really cool guy, sweet spirit. Really, really cool brother. So 37, Keys to Manifesting Your Dreams, The Law of Attraction with Jennifer Castellari. Jennifer hit me up. She designed an app that helps you keep track of your goals and dreams and visions, and it has reminders and how it reminds you and helps you. It's like a vision board app that helps you to bring the stuff to your memory, so it's just not scattered everywhere, so you can have a reminder when to think about it, you know, just to be reminded and have it there in between your eyes and see it and speak it and confess it. So she's her app is growing, just getting pretty successful with it, and it's a really cool way to help keep your dream in focus and in vision. Because I'm telling you, like, you can start something and get so scatterbrained and get so bogged down with chores and just the day-to-day where, like, you forget about it. A week has passed and you're like, man, I haven't even done anything to take a step towards my dream. And so just to bringing it to the forefront of your consciousness is a huge step. And then have practical things you can do as well, like writing stuff down. And she talks about that in that episode. So that was a really cool one too. 36, Watchman, Ascending Jacob's Ladder, UFOs, Aliens, and Music. Watchman's a peculiar person, man. I love him. He's my brother. I helped put out his album. I've been growing with him for years, man. He's grown with me. He's kind of left Christendom to kind of do what I'm doing type deal. I love him. He's all over the place sometimes, especially in that interview. It's kind of hard to make sense and kind of stay on topic and stuff. He's an awesome artist. He's a good rapper. And, yeah. So supposedly, like, I helped produce his album and promote it, shared it with a lot of you guys. There's some really good songs on there, man. And but he didn't really do much promo on it. He says, I'll give you guys the backstory on this. He says when he's able to go full-time, like I'm full-time, then he'll promote it and he'll have time to promote it. I don't believe that, but that's what he says. So we'll see what happens. Allie says, Matt's wild. Good dude. That's what he says. When he's able to go full-time, he'll promote it. But I say you can't go full-time unless you promote it. Like, you have to do both, you know. 35, Jed Payne, Overcoming Addictions, the TruthSeekah podcast. Yeah, I interviewed Jed Payne. We were both members of the Bad Christian podcast group. This was another podcast that I used to listen to. The band called Emery. I used to be really big into Christian metal back in the day, and Emery started their own show, and they're beer drinking, cursing Christians. And they just kind of call it what it is. They talk about a lot of the holes in church theology and make fun of church culture and things like that. So met him in that group where he had his own podcast. I had mine. So we just took turns connecting and interviewing each other. So he interviewed me on his podcast, and I in turn did the same thing over here. So if you want to go, he's got a podcast called Church and Other Drugs where he interviewed me on that show. Really cool. But then on this one, he talked about overcoming addictions. Like, this guy had been, I think I'm going to say 16 rehabs, in and out of drug rehabs and treatment centers and stuff. And, yeah, really interesting episode. 34, Adam Starseed Bay, ET contact, astral travel, and remote viewing. Adam Starseed Bay, man, he was a patron. He found the podcast, found the music, and became a patron, started supporting. And through that, we started a friendship together, messaging back and forth on Facebook and on the Patreon group and stuff. And seeing what he was doing, seeing the vision he had, said, look, man, we need to come on and talk about some of this stuff. So he goes live and talks about the same stuff I talk about. So let's do an episode together. So we did an episode showcasing what he's into and what he's doing. So really good show. Adam Starseed Bay. Number 33, Practical Shamanism, Native American Spirituality, Royce Gay. I like to connect with people who were already doing something, right? Like, I like to obviously we deal with no-name people who have no fan base or have nothing going on. I enjoy that, especially if it's just an interesting person who has something to bring to the table. I kind of enjoy that even more if nobody's ever heard of them, and that the first time you're hearing of this person is through my work, and it's such a good episode. Like, there's definitely those episodes. Royce Gay has a pretty decent following on social media. He goes live and he rants and stuff on his Facebook, and he gets a lot of Native American people watching. Maybe it's because he's on the reservation. I'm not sure, but we did an interview together right before Thanksgiving, and he was just all over the place. You know, it was hard for him to stay on subject. I don't know if he was. I'm just being candid. I don't know if he was on pills or something, like he was on some type of opiates or whatever, because he did talk about having pain and stuff, but it was just really incoherent the majority of the time. There was some gems that you can pull out of that interview, and what I'm telling you is my experience, and then I've got those messages too. They're like, that guy didn't make it look sense. Like, I couldn't follow him. You know what I'm saying? So I did get that from some of the audience as well. Number 32. From Juggalo to Jesus Freak. This was an interview with Jay Payne. Jay Payne's a really cool guy. You guys know I do have a lot of interviews with Christian rappers. I come from Christian rap. I feel like I can help them in somewhat to kind of watch out for some of the pitfalls if that's what they're, feel like they're called to do gospel music and stuff like that. But I come from that culture. So, and I also was big into Insane Cloud Posse, the ICP. So that's a good episode. I definitely recommend this one, and it switches it up a little bit. So it's not all spirituality, aliens, meditating, Jesus. Obviously, there's some talk of Jesus, but we talked a lot about music in that too. So that's a good one to listen to. We talked about the Insane Clown Posse, their influence on both of us, and leaving that stuff alone, and then all kind of stuff. So episode 31. I got to talk a little bit in this episode. This was Sacred Geometry and the Flower of Life, the Act of Reawakening Consciousness with David Hopkins. David Hopkins is a cool guy. That joker can talk. He talked the majority of that hour and a half. I didn't get to talk much. One thing that stands out to me is the fact that we talked about soulmates and having soul ties with your twin flames, and like I'm big into marriage. I talk about this a lot. I've been with my wife since I was 14, and I'm 34, and so he talked about like having multiple twin flames, and once you grow old or that person just grows old, you could just leave and get another twin flame. You don't have to have one your whole life. I didn't agree with that. I just said a little bit of something on it, and then he just kind of talked over me. But that was one thing that stood out for me, that episode, that you kind of find these theologies and stuff and these belief systems that cater to your lifestyle, whether it's biblical or not. I mean, you find theology and doctrine and stuff to back up what you believe. Obviously you wouldn't want to, and this is natural, you wouldn't like try to obtain a theology or doctrine that goes against what you believe or what you're doing. Many people do that even in Christianity, and they end up chasing their tail for a long time. I did it, right, in Christianity, and a part of what I was doing I thought was wrong or was told was wrong, or the backlash that you get from people shows you that it's wrong or whatever the case is. And so you're kind of left in this place of being double-minded in a state of confusion, because you never can get this thing down. You never can bring yourself to agree with a doctrine or a belief system, and you're just chasing your tail the whole time. So that was something that was talked about in that episode. Episode 30, the spirit of authenticity, seeing God in all life. Chris Bars is in the chat room right now, hanging out. Really good episode. We talked about we took a family trip and a spirit tribe trip. A bunch of us took a vacation up to the mountains, man, up in Tennessee, and Chris and his wife came to that, and Christy Lee and my family. We just had Jessica and Jeremy, some good friends of ours. We had a good time. We only spent about 3 days there, but had a really good time together hanging out. We talked about that in the interview. Talked about his spirituality, coming out of Christianity and still dealing with the backlash and trying to let that go. So we talked about that, and that's just a process a lot of people have to go through, and it can last years. Even Chris has come strides away from walking out of Christianity and what other people think about him. Till even I think earlier, I'll just put this out there, being candid. We had a little conversation on Messenger, and it was kind of still coming out in his speech. So it's there. It's probably still there for me a lot too, right? It definitely is, and it may always be there. You may never fully get over some of that stuff, man, because some of these people, meant the world to you, and you spent so many years around this belief system and doctrine and stuff like that. So it gets hard just to kind of walk away from it and just forget it all, right? It's a process, man. So one thing I will say about Chris is really cool. He's been with his wife for a long time, and they were a young couple that got married, and they're still together, and they have a beautiful marriage, and I love to see that, man. I can't tell you that, like, when I was in church and stuff, when me and my wife got married early, like all the other teenagers or young adults were trying to get early because it was like a fad, like we did it. And some of these marriages lasted like 2 months and stuff. Insane. And see people get together and last a month and 2 months. It's just insane. Like they would go through a wedding and do all this stuff. Marriage is magical, man. Marriage is special. So I really appreciate to see young people who put value in the marriage, and that's something that I believe Chris and Nicole do. They're definitely a huge inspiration to work through the stuff that isn't easy to get over. They just kind of work through their problems, and you don't grow apart. You know what I'm saying? If you fall in love with somebody, even though it gets rocky, you don't just trade them in, man. And those guys are really, really cool, and I appreciate their marriage and what God's done in their hearts. So check out that episode. 29, DNA activation, the Fibonacci sequence, and 144,000. Third Eye, Joshua Friedman. That episode with Joshua Friedman, it was a decent episode. A lot of controversy around that with me, because after that episode, I've talked about this openly. Like I don't deal with him anymore. He's the one who threatened to sue me. We did the episode. He kept plugging, name dropping, Jason Westerfield, which was like his mentor, who's like the super spiritual Christian guru guy, who's now into New Age, and he's kind of left Christendom. He's in a New Age, but he's supposedly was close with him for some years and knew him ever since he was a kid, things like that. And then we mentioned his name, and his face lit up, and he just goes into stories talking about Jason Westerfield. Nobody's heard from Jason Westerfield in a long time. He's very secretive of what he's doing. He's transitioning from Christian to New Age. He's done a couple engagements. He charges a lot of money to hear him speak, all of this kind of stuff. And Joshua and his crew are waiting on waiting to do a conference with him so that they can be the one that kind of platforms the first official Jason Westerfield thing. Okay, so we talked a little bit about that in the episode, and then he talks about this experience he had with Jason Westerfield, where they're communicating back and forth telepathically, that he's met these blue orb-like beings or whatever, and Jason Westerfield already knew about them, and just some interesting stories. Like, I like to hear people's stories. So I made the clip of my episode. So I like to, if I do a clip with Jordan Maxwell, and Jordan Maxwell goes on a rant for 15 minutes about Manly P. Hall, I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to say Jordan Maxwell talks about his love for Manly P. Hall. I'm going to throw a thumbnail on it. I'm going to make a clip. It's going on YouTube. More people may watch that than the original 2-hour interview. Some people don't have time for these type of shows, right? Everybody's different in the way that they consume media or podcasts or entertainment or whatever you want to call it. So I did that with the Jason Westerfield story. Jason Westerfield and the Blue Beings. Is it going to get clicks? Yes. People are looking for Jason Westerfield material. But when I uploaded it, I had a picture of Jason Westerfield. It just said Jason Westerfield and the Blue Beings. Telepathy and the Blue Beings. And you click it, and it's a story of Joshua speaking about his interaction with Jason Westerfield for about 10 minutes. He just ran it. He gave me the content. And then when I did that, they asked me to take it down. I was like, bro, you need to take that down right now. I was like, I worked hard on getting this. Like, I made a dope image. You know, I took this time to cut it out, mix it down. It takes a lot of work to do that stuff. He told me I needed to delete it. And I was like, why, bro? And I didn't delete it right when he told me to. Then he got real forceful with me. And that dude sent me like 30 texts back to back. Take it down now. Jason would not appreciate this. Jason's going to get mad. I have to get his permission. It's like, how do you have to get his permission by you the one who shared the story with him? Like, this was your story about him. He should be delighted that you lit up, your face lit up like a Christmas tree to share your experience with him that changed your life. Why you have to get permission from him to put that up there? So he just kept on, and then he got real forceful with me. He's like, you need to take it down now or it's going to be some serious problems. I'm like, hold on, now you're throwing threats, bro. Like, I'm from the street too. I ain't a killer, but don't push me. And so he was threatening me, and then he threatened me with a lawsuit. And then he got his other friend, Laurel, which is his other weird, crazy new age chick. She, did the same thing. She's like, that's his like partner or whatever. So she was messaging me like, you need to take it down. We're getting the law involved, and you're going to be sued, and we're going to sue you and take everything from you. I'm like, you know what? Y'all can have it. Y'all beat me. I wasn't going to take it down, but they started threatening me like that. So I was like, you know what? I don't have time for no lawsuit, dealing with these people, whatever, taking it down. I took it down, deleted it from YouTube. I did make a Facebook page on it. Not Facebook page. I made a posting on my website about that clip, just because that helps, when you blogging and keywords and stuff like that, help getting your material out there. You have to learn SEO, search engine optimization, to be able to blog so that people can find it. I took the video down. I did not take the web page down, the web page so if you type in Jason Westerfield now, I think I'm like the third article, when it was like pages down, and I'll get a lot of traffic still to my site. They don't get that clip by itself, but they get to listen to that interview or the episode that comes from. So that episode is still there. And so that's still there. I get a lot of traffic from that. Even this morning, somebody emailed me asking me where the interview was and why it was taken down, and I just showed them the clip that it comes from. It's taken from this interview. But, after I took it down, I said, hey, bro, I'm sorry, man. I still want to be friends with you. Love what you're doing with the podcast. Would love to come back on and share more. I got so much more to share with you. I'm like, nope, you're done, bro. Sorry, you're done. I blocked him and that other chick, and it's like, you threaten my livelihood. Like, you threatened to turn my lights off. You threatened to shut my podcast down. You threatened to, whatever. Take everything I have. I don't have nothing for you to sue me for and take what I got. Dude threatened me with a lawsuit, throwing threats. And then you still want to be friends. You still want to hang out. No. Sorry, brother. Yeah. Stay away from those people. You got to be careful, man. So after that, I started making a lot of the guests come on and kind of do a intro spiel with me before we go live, saying that TruthSeekah has rights to edit my podcast into segments and release segments for promo purposes and stuff. I've started making people do that before we go live, and having them saying that on record recording. So yeah, you live and you learn, though. You got to cover your tracks. Just because somebody claims to be spiritual, just somebody claims to be a Christian, you can't just take that and run with it, man. These people they got ulterior motives, man. They, everybody's different, bro. Be careful out there. 28, alien abductee, the greatest UFO story never told. Giant Rock, Chad Meek. It was funny. Chad Meek hit me up through a service that I signed up for, to like where they send you potential guests, and he hit me up that I was a show looking for guests. And he wanted to come on and talk about his alien cases. This place called Giant Rock, where he grew up and had all this UFO contact when he was a child. And he says, it says the greatest UFO story never told is what he calls it. He's wrote a book. He's trying to write it into a screenplay and stuff. But I said the audacity. How do we know that this is the greatest UFO story never told? So I just messed with him on that. But it was a decent interview. Check it out. He's making his rounds into the podcast circle, doing interviews on that. Pretty cool episode. I like him. 27. You Deserve a Perfect Life, Creating the Life You Love, Paul Levin. That was a really cool episode. That was a fun one with Paul Levin. He talked about essentially the power of manifestation, creating the life you love, you want for yourself, you know what I'm saying, visualization, all of these practical steps to kind of get to a place where you want to be, no matter where it is, whether it's a job, a career situation, a spiritual outlook or view of the spiritual person that you want to be in life, practical ways to do that. So that was a very fun episode. I definitely recommend that one. It was really good. That's number 27. Number 26, Coy Third Eye Opener. That's my second time interviewing Coy and expanding consciousness through natural plant medicines. Coy, he has a huge Instagram following. He always gives me shouts out. Every time he does, man, I get hundreds of followers from him giving me a shout out because he's got over 50,000 followers on there. And he's, my music helped bring him to the path that he's on now. So he kind of pays it forward, just kind of getting my stuff out there. It's so funny. He's like, man, why you don't have as many followers? Like, I haven't been consistent on all these platforms. I tried to build Facebook up, man, and then Facebook turn around and bite you on the butt. I got 14,000 Facebook likes, and it lets 7 people see your post. That's awesome. When it first started, it definitely wasn't like that. They changed the algorithms and stuff. But Instagram just changed their algorithms back. Now I'm starting to get some activity on Instagram where I only have like maybe 2,500 or so followers, but I get more interaction on Instagram now because they just changed the algorithms where they'll actually let the people see your content, without having to actually pay for it. So they need to go back to that on Facebook, man. Facebook's falling apart. And YouTube as well, if we didn't have if we had an alternative that was decent and enough people would jump on board, like we would jump ship ASAP, because YouTube and Facebook with all these censorships and stuff like that, it's getting insane, man. Getting insane. Number 25, Brian T. of Kingdom Music interview. Brian Trejo. That was a good interview. Brian Trejo is a Christian rapper, and he's one of the ones who's doing it right. He's doing it full time. He's traveling. Huge tour schedule. A lot of people want to do what he's doing, and so we tried to talk about some of the ways to do that and approach it, to do it the right way. And the dude's legit. He blew up on World Star a couple years ago by doing this song for his brother. He had a twin brother who died, and they filmed themselves singing this song, him and his cousins and sisters and all these girls and stuff, doing a tribute to his brother who was murdered. And it went viral on World Star. So I think he kind of used that to kind of springboard him to a larger audience. So really like what he's doing. Number 24, The Spiritual Power Behind Music, Andy Songbird. Andy hit me up from listening to the podcast, and I hadn't heard of him before. He showed me some of his music and stuff, so I was like, you know what, let's do it. So had him on. Also had Michael Basham helped me with the interview. He was like my co-host for that episode, and that was fun to kind of do that. So yeah, we talked about some interesting stuff on there. Talked a lot about dark energies and demons and stuff too, and the way demons get a hold of people through music and through trauma and stuff like that. So that was good. Number 23, Summoning Angels Through Ceremonial Magic, Nikolai Jones. That was a pretty good interview. Like he's been following my work for some time, and that was one thing that I asked him, that he's got into angel magic and stuff, and I talk a lot about summoning UFOs and summoning angels and summon ETs with my signal ETs with my laser beams and all these little stuff that I throw on my music. So I asked him, I was like, look, bro, it's like, did my music influence that? Because I get like from a lot of conservative Christian audience, they'll say, hey, dude, your music's teaching people how to do this, how to do that. So I asked him, if my music had any part of him doing that, and he kind of vaguely said yes. It's definitely influenced him. You couldn't say that it didn't, but in a good way. He started out on a bad path and then had to learn, because he was summoning demons and doing like demon magic and stuff, and then he got into ceremonial magic, summoning angels and the angelic. So we talked about that. He's been following my work since definitely 2012, supporting it. So that was a good interview. the bad thing about it, the audio was really choppy. I think he's in Australia, and so it's the other side of the planet, right? So I think it was like 2 a.m. or something like that, or midnight or something when we did that on his end, and it was just like 10 a.m. my time. So the audio got real choppy. I had to cut it short, but I feel like that once I cut him short, the message I brought forth was good. I really resonated with that and got a lot of feedback from after that interview too. So that was a good one. Number 23, Summoning Angels Through Ceremonial Magic. 22, TruthSeekah breaks down the lyrics to his song Meditation. That's exactly what that is, me talking about my lyrics to that song. 21, Evolving Spiritually, Mysticism in Movies, Cartoons, Comic, and Anime Music. This is an interview with another person who's been following my work for some years, Witch Boy, Josh Chanel Foster. He's a hip-hop artist, really cool. He's into anime, he's into spirituality, esoteric stuff, and he kind of blends all that within his music. So I like when people bring something different to the table, and he definitely does. And it's really cool, especially when you have these people like you. I've been doing it for so long. I have people that I've influenced, you know what I'm saying, and you can hear your influence in their music or even in their work, you know what I'm saying, and it's really cool to connect with people and inspire people. Number 20, Jordan Maxwell, Aliens, UFOs, and the Kingdom of Heaven. That was a better interview with Jordan Maxwell. It was pretty good. Talked to him. He stayed positive for the most part. I think I got him to stay positive longer in that interview versus any other one that I've done. So that was a good interview with Jordan Maxwell. The Jordan Maxwell ones always skyrocket on YouTube. They do really good as far as getting me into a bigger market. People who have never heard of my show. I think I got like 60,000 on that video right now. And then all the other Jordan Maxwell videos as well. So it kind of gets me into a larger audience where people, get to find out my work. So, number 19, James Gilliland, Aliens, UFOs, and the Unknown. Contact is Enlightenment. James Gilliland was a huge influence on me early on after having my spiritual awakening and going out and seeing UFOs and summoning UFOs and stuff. Needed people to talk to. James Gilliland and his crew were there, his staff. So it was a dream come true to talk to him for the first time. This is the second interview with James Gilliland. This one was a little bit more coherent from me because on the first one I was kind of like starstruck. It was hard to talk to him, but once, content-wise, the first interview was really good. Quality-wise and my half of stuttering so much, I tried to edit it a little bit where it's a little bit easier to listen to, but because you can hear it in my voice, though. You hear the excitement and the real wonder and just studying. Like, I'm talking to people I've been listening to on YouTube for a year or 2 years or whatever the case is. I finally got a chance to talk to them, so it was a beautiful experience. Number 18, Learning to Hear God's Voice, Carlos Martinez. Carlos is really cool. Actually, I just did some work for him today. He's a Christian prophetic teacher and preacher, and started out just doing graphic art for him, needing some graphic art, and I seen what he was about, and I was like, hey, man, love to have you on to kind of tell your story, talk about hearing God's voice and stuff. So had him on, and he does workshops, and he does leadership services and stuff where he talks about learning to hear God's voice and prophetically, and he's definitely one who can tap in and pick up things in the spirit and speak it out. So we talked about practical ways to do that, and we also talked about dealing with demons and stuff in that episode too. So it was a good interview. Did some graphic art for him this morning, actually. 17, Growing as an Empath, Crystal Sunshine. Crystal Sunshine hit me up after seeing some of my interviews, and she's a intuitive healer, empath. Really good interview. I enjoyed that one. Number 16, From Gospel to Gangsta, ex-Christian rapper Quayle. Me and Quayle go way back. We were doing gospel rap together years ago. I know we've got at least one song together. But yeah, he's He was like, when I first became a Christian, like trying to find Christian music that sounded like Insane Clown Posse, like ICP and stuff, I found Quayle, and it was like the closest thing that you can find at the time, you know. So I really dug Quayle's stuff back in the day. So now on this interview, he's left Christian rap, and now he's doing what we would call secular music, gangster rap or whatever. So, but I think he's mission minded. Like, I see what he's doing, like, to be good. He's dealing with the drug addicts. He's dealing with the people who are really in the slums, man. You know, he's building with those people. He's down there with them now, when therefore not only him, but a lot of Christian rappers who say they want to win the lost, they want to reach the dying and hurting for Jesus, they only want to deal with church folks. And Quayle can tell you that. I can tell you that from my experience of being a Christian rapper and seeing a lot of other Christian rappers. They tell you they want to win the lost, but they really just want to rap for church kids, you know, and get that applause and get that paycheck and that easy space. Because if you wanted to win the lost, you would be downtown, you would be in the hood, you would be where those people are, and those people aren't in your churches. You have to go get them. So Quayle is doing that now, even though he's rough around the edges. He curses a lot. He looks crazy. You know, he talks about real life stuff. I don't listen to his music, but I can see. I'm a seer, right? I can see what's going on. I know what he's doing. Number 15, Hybrid Children, Alien Contact, and Indigo Starseeds. Bridget Nielsen. It's funny, the name Bridget Nielsen, so people were watching the interview and thought that I was referencing the lady who was married to Flavor Flav at one point, Bridget Nielsen. But no, she talks about hybrid children a lot. This is a lady who claims to have, like, go on like UFOs and stuff, and they're raising children. She's raising a family and kids, and you get to play. You can play with them and connect with these hybrid children, these alien kids and stuff. So very interesting interview. She got a huge following. I love to connect, hear people's stories, see where they're coming from. So good interview. Number 14 is another Christian rap interview. This is an interview I did with Trey 9. Okay, I'll give some candid stuff on that one. Trey 9, where Christian rap came from and where it's going. I gave a lot of props in that interview to Trey 9 about him starting out in Christian rap and creating a website called thesouth.com that brought a lot of artists together. I used the South to meet artists. I've got collabs off of my first early work through thesouth.com. It was like before MySpace, like throwback. It was a forum, and it was really cool for artists connecting, getting to find other Christian artists and stuff like that. I didn't mention this. This is one thing that I kind of had against Trey 9. I didn't mention it. Maybe I don't know if I should have mentioned it, because you can't really change the past. But so the South was a beautiful platform. Artists could come together and share and collab. He changed it. He took the forum. Once it got really big and got so much traffic, he monetized the platform. Like, he deleted the forum off of there and made it to where if you wanted to connect with artists or you wanted to have your name on there beside Lecrae's name, that you had to pay. So it was like this free. It was a community, and then it became pay to play. You had to actually pay them and buy ad space to actually be on the website. So they kind of took away that thing that they had built and monetized it. He made a lot of money off of it. So, you know, it worked for him, but for the other artists who you know, the grassroots movement and stuff like that, he totally pulled the rug from under that, though. But, you know, maybe props, maybe respect to him for doing what he got to do to feed his family. But it really hurt a lot of artists and stuff, and it took that away from us. But then he ended up selling that site and selling it to another company because of other sites that were coming up alongside of him doing the same thing that were way bigger and getting way bigger. So he ended up selling the site. Number 13, the Illuminati, Freemasons, UFOs, and aliens. Rasul Allah of the Lost Children of Babylon. One of the reasons I'm doing the type of music that I'm doing is because of Rasul from LCOB. I connected with them early on. Once I stopped doing Christian rap, I was wanting to do what they're doing, spiritual hip hop. Got into that. My first album came out with that type of vibe in 2012. It was called Awaken the Fire. Rasul Allah's on, I think he's on 2 tracks on that album. He's on Spiritual Alchemy. I don't know if he's on 333 or not. I can't remember right off the bat. But yeah, he's on Watchman's album. But those dudes, man, what they brought to the table back in 1999, man, still holds up to this day. The album called the Equividium, Where Light Was Created, and there's a couple more, but the Words from the Duat, really dope album. So Rasul is cool. I go back with him. Like we've got history together, man. He's a really cool guy. Really like him. So we'll go to episode 12. Divination with Letters, Letting the Spirit Speak, Jim Gerard. Jim reached out to me after seeing me on Project Camelot, I believe, and wanted to come on the show and talk about this divination technique that he has about rolling dice and writing the letters down, and he throws them out a certain amount of times. I want to say it's 13 times, writing down all the letters and then deciphering the codes from those letters and getting stuff about individual stuff that's to happen in the future for different people. And so yeah, we had him on the show. It's pretty interesting. Pretty good show. 11. This was a good one. Rethinking Hell, Universal Reconciliation. Did Jesus Die for All? Tom Shannon. This was a good one. I'm a part of a group called Rethinking Hell on Facebook, and he posted something just really beautiful in there, and I was like, you know what, I want to talk to this guy. I want to have him on my podcast. So talked about, like, even from this guy's a Christian pastor. I didn't even know he was a pastor when I had him on the show, but I think he thought that I was going to have him on to debate too from the beginning, like what kind of show I am, and seeing my backdrop and what I'm bringing to the table and stuff. I think he maybe thought I wanted to debate him or whatever. So I had to kind of reassure him. I said, look, dude, I'm with you. Like, I like what you're doing. It's not a debate. Calm down. Because you could tell he's a little trying to get prepared to debate or whatever. I said, look, I'm with you, man. So brought something really beautiful to the table, man, is that we've been told that, God hates sinners, and when you die, you're going to go burn in hell for all eternity and stuff like that. So we just did an episode about rethinking hell, looking at it from another perspective, and that is not the only perspective, that hell is a place of eternal torment and punishment. But in that interview, can essentially break it down that hell is a mind state. Hell is a place where you can be a state of consciousness on this realm of existence away from God. King David was there. He asked the Father to deliver his soul from hell. And this was a place that he felt like he was in on the earth. And it's totally a New Testament, not a New Testament, but a new Western concept that really comes from like Dante's Inferno. And it's not about, like, it's not in the Old Testament as a place of eternal punishment. That's not an Old Testament concept at all. Like, in the references in the New Testament are talking about it symbolically, and talking about, I think it's talking about Gehenna, a place where there's they burn the trash in the city. So really interesting. That was a good episode though. Number 10, Power and Silence, Meditation Techniques and Practices, Jess Treagle. Dr. Jess from New Orleans, we went and seen her. We go into a lot of detail on this on several interviews, but me and Drew Gower and another friend of ours, Chris Taylor, Crispy, went to see her before we did our psilocybin mushroom encounter in New Orleans at the Float Tank Center. I have a friend of mine who owns a float tank shop. So we was able to go see Dr. Jess, and she did some Reiki healing on us and stuff, and it was really beautiful. So we kind of welcomed our visit into New Orleans with that, going to see her, had a private session, it was really good. And then we went downtown Bourbon Street just for a little bit to kill time, and then went to the float tank shop, which was beautiful. And this was like my second or third time in the float tank, but this was like my first encounter with psilocybin mushrooms was in the float tank experience. So really cool. I didn't stay in there too long because I had so much stuff coming to me that I got out and had to write it down, and I still have all the stuff that I wrote down from that. So that was a good interview, and I love Dr. Jess and what she's doing. Number 9, Alien Abductions and Psychic Abilities, Carrie Cassidy of Project Camelot interview. Carrie Cassidy had me on her show from Project Camelot, and just do your homework, like she's responsible for like pushing like David Wilcock, David Icke, Jordan Maxwell, like all of these people. She's had interviews with them back in 2010, 2011, you know, way back in the day. She's been doing this for a long time. So partly because of what she's brought to the table, it's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because I've listened to those interviews, 3-4 hour interviews at a time, you know, and it has played a huge influence on me, and it's really impacted my life, especially the Jordan Maxwell stuff, because she'll have Jordan Maxwell on there talking about aliens, and I sampled Jordan Maxwell on her show in one of my songs. The song with Beast 1333, which I think I talked about on the other episode. But go back and listen to that song, and that sample of Jordan Maxwell is taken from a Project Camelot interview. So it was a dream come true for me to be interviewed on her show. You got to understand of like, I'm having experiences and encounters, and I know a lot over the years, and I was still young at the time, but I would listen to those interviews, and just like people, it's really cool, man, how just like the roles change, because people listen to this interview, this podcast, and they're like, man, I wish I could interject. Man, I wish I wish he can interview me and ask me these questions, you know. That's how I felt listening to Project Camelot. And I have people come on who write me and tell me, or eventually come on and they say, yeah, you're right. Like, I want to interject, or I want to talk to, or ask this person a question or whatever, you know. So it's really cool how the roles reverse there. And I want to be open to, you know what I'm saying, letting people do that, express themselves and come on. So really cool. I will say my interview she interviewed me on her show first, and she was very standoffish. She cut me off several times, and as a matter of fact, abruptly stopped me and stuff like that. When I got to talking, maybe sounding too religious for her, where I would quote the Bible or say, from a biblical perspective, this is what this is, and she would stop me. And so it was really kind of weird. You can feel the contention there. You knew there was an agenda there. And it was a little hostile. But when I had her on my show, the roles changed. The roles reversed. She was giddy. She laughed. She giggled a lot. She felt good talking about her work and what she was doing to bring it to the table. And her whole expression changed. And I received a lot of emails from her fans who said, look, that interview was awesome. It was good to see her in good spirits, because she's been under attack. She's been lied on and blogged about, and she really has been under attack, like death threats, all kind of stuff. So it was good to see her on my show laughing and giggling and stuff. So yeah, I enjoyed that interview. So that interview is special for that reason. That's number 9. Number 8, astral travel, shamanic shadow healing, Nicole Leanne. This is another spiritual healer, Nicole Leanne. It was a good show we did. Really enjoyed talking with her. We talked about healing. I love to talk about healing, trauma and stuff, and how to overcome that. And it's so funny because, and I know I talked about it in that episode, and in all the episodes that I deal with spiritual healers on, people who do Reiki or intuitive healing and stuff like that. It's so similar to like what happens in the Bible when like walking in biblical healing, or even the way that I've experienced coming into the knowledge of these giftings and abilities within my own life. It's so similar to theirs, but the wording is different, because I come from a Christian background, and there's like biblical wording and terminology. Just like when a lot of Christians listen to this show and they won't give it the time of day. They look at the titles of the show and they see the images of an alien. They say, oh, stand away from that, blah, blah, blah. That's aliens, that's demons. It's like, no. When I talk about the aliens, I'm talking about angels. And I'm very, very clear about that. But it opens up room for discussion in the alien community, because they'll ask the bigger questions, and we're talking about different rankings and different types of angelic beings and stuff. And I believe that if aliens came 2,000 years ago, we would call them angels, you know, and I think they're the same thing. So, you know, there's a big thing when it comes to syncretism. There are people being scared of terms and stuff. So, it was a good show. Number 7 episode, the 7th episode from the top is Exploring Dimensions, Realm Renegade. This was a guy by the name of Realm Renegade who hit me up. His name is Dorian. He's on Instagram. Really cool guy. He's influenced by my work, my music, and my podcast and stuff. And he's just one of those dudes. He mentioned it as well. Listening to the podcast and wanting to interject and wanting to get on and wanting to come on, you know, when certain questions would be asked to a guest or something. He felt like he had the answer. So we did that interview. Really cool guy. We share a similar background in hardcore music and the hardcore scene that I was into. Christian. I was into Christian metal. He was into straight edge metal, but the Christian and straight edge kind of blended a little bit in my area. From straight edge is not drinking, doing drugs, or nothing like that. Being straight edge, not letting any type of poisons in your body or whatnot. So that was a good interview. He looks a lot like FouseyTube, and I mentioned it to him at the end. He's like the woke FouseyTube. Like if FouseyTube, which is a big YouTuber, started doing conscious media, this would be him. So number 6, Engaging the Prophetic with Joshua Fluman. This was a good episode. Joshua, who is another supporter and patron, has been supporting me for a while now. He has an awesome story. He's got something he's bringing to the table. He has a YouTube channel called the Gothic Disciple. So we talked about hearing the voice of God, growing in that, and different ways that God speaks to us. And one of my friends called in, Reggie Abear, who's a good friend of mine, and we got to talk to him too. So he called in the second half of that interview, and yeah, really good episode. Make sure y'all go check that one out. Number 5, UFO Disclosure and the Alien Agenda with All It Is. All It Is a rapper. He hit me up as well after seeing the Project Camelot interview. Carrie Cassidy interviewed a rapper. So they checked me out. They liked the interview, and they say, let me, first he hit me up wanting to just collab. So we ended up collabing together on a song. So we do have a song out there. If you type in All It Is in TruthSeekah on YouTube, you can find that collab that we did. So I gave a verse on there, which is like 2 short verses put together. So it's pretty cool remix to one of his songs that we did. And then it was like, hey, let's just have you on the podcast, man. Talk about your music, how you got influenced with it and stuff. And that was really cool. And that opened up because at the end of that interview, he talked a lot about Billy Meyer, the UFO contactee guy, which was, I don't know what year that happened. I want to say 70s or something like that. But that was one of the biggest cases before it became, mainstream and widespread, the Billy Meyer case. So All It Is kind of talked about that at the end of the show and opened it up, made some connections for me to talk to the guy who handles Billy Meyer's case in the U.S. So I had him on the show. That show's not listed here yet because it's not out. I am sitting on a couple episodes right now that I have to get out by the time you're listening to this, probably live, definitely. So I have to get those out. So yeah, really cool building with him. He joined us in the School of the Mystics and was blown away. He didn't know what to expect. He came in one Thursday night. He's a patron supporter as well. Shout out. So yeah, he came in on the School of the Mystics one night and was blown away and just felt the love and the energy and people encountering God, man, on the School of the Mystics Thursday nights, and he was able to see that firsthand, and it shook him down to his core. It was beautiful. Number 4, Cindy McKeon, the Jinn, Genies, Ghosts, Demons, and Evil Spirits. She came on. She's another psychic healer and gets into has her own practice and stuff. And we started talking about demons. I asked her, I wanted to talk about her good experiences. I love to hear about good experiences, but the bad too. We can't just give you all the good without talking about the bad or acting like it never happened. So we talked a lot about her bad experiences, and she talked about the jinn and the genies and coming out of like the practices that she was in and what she's seen. So it's really interesting to talk to somebody who has been there on that side with the jinn and the genies and people who try to catch them and like make them grant you wishes and stuff. Really cool episode. Cindy McKeon. That was episode 4. Going down to number 3, Bhakti Yoga, Spirituality and Comparative Religions with Danya. Her publicist hit me up wanting to have her on the show and talk about her new music. She has a song with MC Yogi. Had her on here. Didn't know much about her. Checked out her music, liked it, and had her on. So it was I was kind of nervous going into the conversation because I didn't have anything planned. So it's like just build off a conversation. We just started building, and just started finding parallels there. So we talked about comparative theology, man, and a lot of the conclusions that I've come through to with the Christian church and with the different ways that people interpret the Bible and the contentions there. The same concerns and contentions are there with the Bhagavad Gita and some of their holy books or whatever, because she's more into Hinduism and stuff, and that's where the Bhakti tradition comes from. So really interesting to see the parallels and say we're not so different after all, are we? I love that. Episode 2, Psychic Abilities and Open Healings with Brenda Bradshaw. Brenda Bradshaw is a trip. She's a trip. She's a Christian lady. Really, she would probably call herself a prophetess versus a psychic. I'm not really sure. But we talked about those psychic abilities and intuition and spiritual giftings, whatever you want to call them. Whatever makes you feel more comfortable, you can call it. You have my permission to call it that. If you want to call it the Holy Spirit, call it the Holy. You want to call it Kundalini. If you want to call it Tachyon. If you want to call it Pranayama. You want to call it the Chi. Look, you have my permission. Whatever. If one of those triggers you, it's not my fault. People get triggered. Kundalini, that's a demon. Aliens, that's a demon. Meditation is demonic. You know what I'm saying? They have trigger words that they can't hear, but those who are able to see, they can see and know that all things are spiritual, right? That was a good episode. I run the boards and host a show on Wednesday nights with psychic Christy Lee, and she's a good friend of mine. She's also a patron supporter, been supporting for a very long time, probably the top supporter, honestly. Really, really good person. She went on our trip with us to Tennessee with Chris Bars and those guys. But Brenda Bradshaw called in, and she's been working with Brenda Bradshaw. And I'm just co-hosting the show, and she called in and just starts to give me a reading about my name. And she has this divination thing where, like, she's able to read your name and the spelling of it and tell you what your name means or whatever. And it was, like, right on the way she was able to interpret it. So, it was one of those things. You knew you were in the presence of God, and I can feel the impartation, and I knew she was reading me, and it was a good thing. So very beautiful. I had to hold back tears that night. And even when she was on my show, we just did a lot of free readings. People will call in, and she'll just tell them about themselves and what they're dealing with, and prayers and stuff like that. And that was powerful too. So that was a good episode. So episode 100, this is it. Episode 100 was beautiful. And the synchronicities were amazing. I released this right when I hit 100 patrons. So we have episode 100 with 100 patrons. The synchronicities are beautiful. I follow the signs. I really do. Synchronicity, man, is something beautiful when it happens. It freaks you out, but it's beautiful. It lets you know that you're on the right path. 100 patrons, 100 episodes. I had Matthew Silver, the wackadoo, on my show. We talked about spirituality and the power of laughter. Matthew Silver is a very interesting person. I started following his work a couple years ago when he only had a couple followers, man. He only had a few people that followed him on social media. And I loved his work. He'd go out and just act insane, dancing in the street, getting and he looks crazy. He's got like his crazy puffy afro dreadlocked stuff going on with his hair, huge beard, and he's out there in a Speedo or a kid's bathing suit, and he's just dancing, singing about love and getting people to dance and sing with him and stuff. And he gets people to come out of their box, man, and he has some really interesting encounters. And so we talked about that, and really cool dude. And he does it, he's like mission minded too. He's just not going out there being silly or just going out there being funny, which he is. He is being funny. He is being silly, but he's almost taking the path of the fool, and it's the path that you would like lower yourself and kind of let people poke fun at you and laugh at you for other people to come out and receive healing, receive love. Like I said, he is mission minded, so it's really cool that he's going out there to change the consciousness of people. People having a bad day. and they run into this guy, and he changes their day, man. Really interesting interactions. You can watch him on YouTube, on Facebook. Really, really, really cool individual. So that was a really cool episode I did for number 100. I wanted it to be a good one, and it really was. Matthew Silver, really good stuff. So, yep, that's it. 100 episodes in the books. There's a bunch more that I have to edit, and I have a schedule that I try to release them. So, you know, at this point, we're sitting on probably 7 episodes right now, and I've got some more that I'm going to be doing too. I'm going to put these episodes right now that you're hearing, the 2 reviews, I'm going to make them 101 and 102, just because it's a look back, and just have it right after the 100th episode. So I hope that you were able to listen to these last 2 episodes and maybe hear something that piques your interest that you haven't heard. Like, there's some people who have heard every single episode that I've done. It blows me away. I'm honored. It's so beautiful that people are rocking with the podcast like that. But if not, if you're just catching on now, if you're a late bloomer, if you're a late bloomer, like, there's some episodes that are near and dear to my heart from people who you may have not have ever even heard of, that are really powerful episodes. And so that was kind of like the point in doing this, that you would go back in the archives and check out some of the shows that you haven't heard. And if you have heard them all, then you kind of got some little background explanation on some of the other episodes. So from your favorite people. And like I said, my relationships change with some of these people. I'm cool with a lot of them. Some of these people, I don't trust them. I trust them as far as I can throw them, and it's not far at all. So yeah, do your research, do your homework. Let no man deceive you, man. Like I said, I'm thankful for the support. I'm thankful for you guys believing in my work and what I'm doing. You know what? And I'll talk about this on here, but I want to do a video on this and just have it on video. But I go play basketball, you know, 2-3 times a week usually, and I have to drive by one of my old jobs, right? And every time I drive past that job, I'm immediately in a place of thankfulness, a place of thanksgiving, because my old job, I worked at a porta potty company where we would have to go service toilets, and I would go and clean toilets every day for several months. And it was one of the most degrading jobs. It was filthy, but I did it to support my family. I was faithful there, and I stayed there until something better came along. But I drive by there now, and every time I do, I thank God. Like, I'm in this place of just thanksgiving for looking at the porta potty company. I'm talking about you. It's just disgusting. Like, it really, you get it all over you. It's on your shoes. It's on your pants. Like, people treat those things. It's really bad. But I started there, man. Like, I did that, and I stayed faithful. I didn't just wait for something big. I didn't quit to say, you know, I'm a podcast, I'm just going to step out. Like, I made sure that I did the work. Like, that was part of my process. That was part of my journey to go through that. People look at that as an example. We had some friends who would just, like, their husbands or boyfriends couldn't keep a job, or they wouldn't work. And they said, look what Derek did. Look what TruthSeekah did. He went out and he would do that job every day to support his family. And you won't even go out and do this. Or I've been in the ditches, you know, weed eating with inmates and prisoners and stuff. And I've done all that stuff. I've done framing work. And I'm telling you, like, every time I drive by and I see these people on if I see a dude on the side of the road picking up trash, I worked for the city for like 5-6 years, and I had to do that, and I had to work with inmates, and I had to cut grass with them and weed eat, and to where, like, you're weed eating and the grass is a little wet, and your clothes and your arms just covered with grass from the weed eaters shooting it back at you, and you're just sweating and beaming sweat and having to drink so much water. And I drive by and I see people picking up trash, and I see people in the ditches, and I see those trucks pumping that, you know what I'm saying, sewage and stuff. And, like, I'm immediately moved to a place of gratitude and thanksgiving. Don't grow weary in well-doing. I believe the scriptures is true when it says that If you be faithful with the little things, if you be faithful with the few, that he'll make you ruler over more. Show yourself faithful, man. The scripture says to work every job and do everything as you're doing it unto the Lord himself. So, you know, if you're on those type of jobs, be the best trash man you can be. I did that. I was on the back of garbage trucks. Like, be the best one you can be. Don't settle for none of that. We're not settling. We never reach a point where we finally made it. I'm at a place now where I get to wake up and be excited about life, about going to work. Like, I used to wake up and dread going to work, dread it. And if that's you, man, then I hope this speaks to you. Like, these interviews, these podcasts are done in a way. And when I talk about the supporters, when I talk about following your dreams and I'm living the dream and I'm walking in it, I'm doing it to a place that hopefully will move you to envy. Not envy where you're just jealous, but envy that you'll do something, that we're giving you the tools. Like, I'm interviewing these people who are doing it and they're telling you what works. I'm telling you what worked for me. And if you can't put 2 and 2 together, then you may never get it. But if that calling is within you, you feel like you're called for something greater, you have a dream, a vision about your life, or something you want to do, we're giving you the tools to do it, man. Like, I'm telling you exactly what's worked for me. And it's working with the patrons. I have support. You know, if you bring something to the table that is a need, right? And people will support it. People will buy it. If it's a product, people will support it. So don't feel like there's nobody who's going to support it. Trust me, man. Like, whatever you speak, it's going to come to pass. So instead of speaking like, man, I got some stuff, ain't nobody on this, bro, and nobody's going to support me, blah, blah, blah. Change the way you're approaching that. I talked to Chris earlier. He was talking about he has some writings that he's going to eventually release. But he said, I know that the church folks are going to hate it. I know that I'm going to get backlash. And I know that's okay. That comes with the territory. Yeah. But change the way you're speaking about that. Instead of saying, like, expecting the bad stuff to happen, let's expect the good. Let's change the way we think, change our confession, and start to say, you know what? When these blogs come out, they're going to change people's lives, man. People are going to grow in a deeper relationship with God through these blogs and through this content or this music or whatever you're bringing to the table. People are going to grow in a relationship. People are going to be set free. It's going to be a new realm of thinking, a new paradigm, and it's going to set people free, man. Begin to confess that and speak it. Like the secret, the law of attraction, I believe in all that. You create it as you speak it. And so begin to speak these positive affirmations. Like, that's what prayer is, setting the atmosphere. Begin to speak it out to create it, and it works, man. That's what I've been doing, writing it down. The scripture says that the people perish for a lack of knowledge. It says if you have a vision, write it down, make it clear, run with it. Like, it gives you all these examples, and we're interviewing these people. You got the tools. We have the same 24 hours in a day. Trust me, the majority of my albums that I wrote them on the job. I wrote them driving that garbage truck, pull over or put the phone text to speech and just start speaking those lyrics into the phone where it would save it. Click the video. I'm just rapping the lyrics into the video and just saving and saving and saving. I wrote the majority of my albums on the job, man. Like, that stuff should propel you to a place where that you want to be. Like, if you're not where you want to be, you should use that as a tool to get there. You should do something every day that feeds that dream. Something. I say something. And honestly, giving info on Watchmen, I've told him, like, I'm kind of pissed off at Watchmen. We did a lot of work and a lot of promo on that album, and I gave him the game. I sat him down like a baby and told him what to do on how to promote it. He didn't do none of it. He didn't do anything. Email these people, try to get interviews, go on, and I'm just telling him what worked for me. I can't give you anything else. I don't know what else works, but this is what works for me. And he didn't do none of that. He claims he's going to do it when he gets to go full-time music. Now, how are you going to go full-time music if you're not even part-time music? You know what I'm saying? So trust me, when I got let go and it was a release to do this full-time, there was already some income coming in. It wasn't a lot, and it's still not a lot, but it's something. It's something. Like, you have to take those steps today. Do something today. Send an email. Create a logo. Get a theme song. Whatever you're trying to do, man. Do something today. Eventually, that stuff's going to stack up. You know what? I'm branding this. I'm putting this out. And then be consistent with it. Keep doing it. Don't do it for a week and stop. Ain't nobody on that. I talk about that. Creative people, we have so many ideas that it's so easy just to jump from one to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. Trust me, I want to. I do have a lot of irons in the fire, but I'm being consistent with what I know works, that what's helping people and what I enjoy, and trying not to get sidetracked onto some other stuff that could work or could possibly work. Like, I have to do what I'm put here to do, and that's for you too. Don't get sidetracked, man. Trust me, I got dudes that I love, man. They're out there, like one day they're selling you know what I'm saying? They're selling plants off the internet to try to make a living, to heal people's bodies. The next day they're doing this and doing that. Then the next day they're doing this, and there's nothing consistent. Like, it changes from day to day, week to week. And people want consistency, man. So much so that I've thought about trying to go live every day. There's a lot of work that goes into this, so I don't know if I could, especially getting ready for the podcast and graphic art and stuff like that. But part of me, wants to do that. And like, shows flourish and do better when you have a same day every week that you go live, even if it's just one day. If it's Mondays at 10 a.m. my podcast, I try to do podcasts Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays as far as putting out new shows on the podcast. And that doesn't always happen, but you definitely get a show every Monday. Every Monday you got a new show. I try to do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I've been caught up with this new album that it's been kind of putting me back a little bit. But create it, man. Whatever it is, you could do it. You have my permission. With that being said, thank you guys for supporting my work. Again, the new album is done. I'm about to put it on Patreon. I have to mix it down to an MP3. Binary Watcher says you're like 99 years old in your head. I've lived many lives. I've done a lot. Dude, I've done a lot of stuff. I've done a lot. I've been a part of many movements, and in these few years I've been alive. I'm only 34. I say only 34. But yeah. The new album is done. It's gonna be put on Patreon. I have to mix it down into an MP3. I know a lot of people can't even listen to waves. That's the best quality. But I have to mix them down. And I'm gonna do that today. So if you're listening, you have the new album on Patreon all the way done. It comes out in 17 days from this point, April the 20th. There's also an album release party. I got people driving in from out of town. I know Chris and his family's coming up. They're driving over 8 hours to be here. I got some other guests who have been on the show. Some of the other patrons, they're going to try to come up too. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be a family reunion, man. I want to let everybody know too, all the patrons, all your names will be in the thank yous on the album. When you open it up and it's got album credits produced by this, none of that. Only thing you're going to see is all the patron names, just a big list. And if you've supported, or if you want to support, your name will be in that list in the album, because it wouldn't be possible without you. I said this, and I meant it. Like, 333 was going to be my last album, just because, like, putting out beautiful content, I don't know if you want to call it being conceited or big-headed or what, but I call it being confident. I think that 333 was one of the best albums of 2015, and people are still finding it today, and they're just blown away. You can have the best album, you can have the best content, but if nobody finds it, it's just going to sit there. You have the best podcast. That's why they say, like, some of those people, like the church folks anyway, they were getting mad at me for making snippets to promote the stuff. You can have the best podcast, but if you don't know how to promote it, nobody's going to hear it. It's just going to sit on the shelf. You have to be creative, man. Use that creativity. Get that stuff out there, man. And I told myself, I told a bunch of friends and stuff that 333 was done. Like, I'm not going to do anything else, But the support came through, and you guys showed me that you wanted to hear another album. And if you guys are the only ones who ever hear it, it's worth it, because you guys produced it, you guys funded it, all of that. It costs money to do this. I don't have the money to do that stuff. I wish I did, but as long as there's support there, as long as there's a need, I'm going to keep making music, As long as these songs are coming, the creativity, the creative juices are flowing, like, they have to be special. I'm just not going to throw anything together. So even with this new album, Seer, like, I'm in a place of like, yeah, I'm ready to get this out. All of these songs are beautiful. There's a piece of me in the songs. They can help you spiritually. There's some deep stuff that I haven't shared before in the songs. And then there's some of the same knowledge, but just rehatched with different words and stuff. So really beautiful album. I'm excited to get it out there. So it will be up on Patreon once this podcast is done. I'm about to do that. And yeah, thank you again. If you want to support my work, patreon.com/TruthSeekah is the best way to support. There you can get my entire discography, not just that album. It's not even out yet, but you can get it. Not just that album. You get my full discography. That's 10+ albums. I've been doing this a long time. You also get extra podcasts and interviews. You get access to the School of the Mystics on Thursday nights. Get access to that. That's our personal community where we come together and we going through these courses together and tapping into the spirit realm and learning how to prophesy, learning how to speak the word of knowledge and the word of faith over one another. So yeah, TruthSeekah and knowledge dropping. TruthSeeking and knowledge dropping. That's what's up, Andrew. Yeah. With that being said, that's pretty much it. You know, you can support me those ways. Another big way to support, some people do this. I have a lot of books that I recommend. Some of them are up on the website. I'll recommend these two here. These are like the top two I just give everybody. The Final Quest by Rick Joyner and The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. You can download those two books today for free and support the show by going to audibletrial.com/TruthSeekah. They're very generous to their affiliates, and it really helps me out tremendously, and you get something out of it. You get a free audiobook. Those two books have changed my life. There's a bunch of books, but those are two that I definitely recommend that you can listen to on Audible. audibletrial.com/TruthSeekah. Go there, download you a book, and support the show. With that, I'm going to say shalom, shalom, peace, peace. I love you guys, and we will do it again very soon. Peace.
Your way so much higher than mine, so much higher than mine, so much deeper than mine, so much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.